Hey everybody, Glenn from Third Millennium, another question and answer session. Today we've got a really important one that it's actually come up a number of times over the years. Just got the same question last week, and it did remind me I wanted to do a video. And this is really, it really is important. The question fundamentally is, it's from Terry up in Ontario, Canada. And his question was, can I compare the M800 speakers with the stock speakers, or it could be any other speaker, by putting one of the M800s in one door and then leaving the stock speaker in the other door? That's an excellent question, and the answer is no, you cannot do that. Well, you could do it. You will not get a valid comparison if you do it. And the reason that this is so important is speaker manufacturers know that there is an issue with doing comparisons between speakers this way, doing them incorrectly. And they exploit that to try to sell their speakers. Even though they don't sound better, they will exploit this thing that we're going to talk about today so that people will believe that their speakers actually sound better and will then go ahead and purchase them. I'm a great fan of comparisons, and one of the reasons why I insist at Third Millennium, we sell all of our speakers with a 30-day money-back guarantee. There is no substitute ultimately for putting them in your car with your stereo or your head unit and amps and listening to the music that you listen to regularly and you really know. You're driving, top up, top down, high speed, low speed, engine off, all of it. And that's really the way to do it. So we do encourage people, go ahead, put them in and listen. But what do you do about comparisons? Say you want to do a comparison, you want to try to be scientific. What is the solution for how you can do this, and how is it that some of these manufacturers are exploiting people trying to do this when they're not doing it correctly to sell inferior sounding speakers? Well, I'll go through this as quickly as I can, but try to bear with me because it is important. The answer to this involves something called psychoacoustics. You can go ahead, Google that, go over to Wikipedia or whatever, but psychoacoustics is fundamentally the science of studying how it is that we hear things and how we perceive it. I'm not talking about your taste, that somebody likes more bass, somebody likes more treble. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the way the human ear is constructed and the way in which we hear things. And this becomes a problem when you are doing comparisons of speakers. And the reason it becomes a problem is that every speaker, it's a mechanical device and an electronic device. There are a lot of parameters in designing speakers, whether they're home speakers or car speakers. And how they are designed affects a lot of things like the frequency response, which is of course important. But also it affects the efficiency, or how able a given speaker system is from converting the electrical power that's coming to it over the speaker wires from the amplifier and converting that into acoustic energy, sound waves, that we can actually hear. That's the music. Let's go for a second, talk about what you can do in a home stereo environment, because this will be more typical for most of you guys out there. You might have a chance of actually doing this. Say you wanted to get some new home speakers. Well, the best way to do it, say you go to a really good stereo shop, not a discount store, not Walmart. I'm saying a really good place, and they'll have a listening room. And I'll throw up a picture up here of a listening room, typical listening room. It'll have comfortable chairs. It'll be in a room where you can close some doors to shut out the rest of the store noise and so forth. And it'll have a lot of speakers set up in the room. And one of the things that it will have, or it really needs to have if it's going to be legitimate, is it'll have right near the seats a box, not very large, sort of a thing like this, with some selector things in it for picking the different speakers. And then it will also have a couple of really critical things. It'll have a switch to go back and forth, so you can toggle back and forth between the speakers to see which ones you like. But it'll have a pink noise generator, and it will have level controls that allows the matching of the output with pink noise between the two speakers. It's critical that you do that before you start listening to music and doing a comparison, because of psychoacoustics. Psychoacoustics causes us, when we're listening to two speakers, if they're both playing at the same time, or we're going back and forth quickly between them, psychoacoustics causes us to favor or think that the sound is better from whichever one is louder. It's just the way that we're built. It's really hard to, go beyond saying that it is just human nature. We tend to favor the louder, thinking that that is in some ways better. Okay. The reality is that that's not a legitimate way to compare them, obviously, because you can have a loud speaker by simply making a horrendous mid-range peak, and it'll be shrill and everything else, but for a quick listen in a room where you're toggling back and forth to another speaker, you won't be focused on all of the other parameters of the frequency response, for example, how tight the bass is, the clarity of the treble and all that. What you'll focus on is it's more prominent because it's louder, and you'll tend to favor that. So what the little box does in the stereo store, you put pink noise in, and I'll put up a sample of pink noise here. Pink noise is simply the same acoustic energy at all frequencies, and it's usually done from 20 hertz up to 20,000 hertz. 20 to 20,000, which is pretty much considered the range of normal human hearing, or at least it is when you're 15 years old. After 15, it's all downhill from there. And by the time you get to be older like I am, unless you've been very, very careful with your hearing, just natural aging, your hearing starts rolling off quite a bit earlier in the high frequencies, and that's just life. So in any case, what they do, you'll sit down and usually have somebody from the stereo store helping you. They'll put the pink noise through whichever the two speakers are that you want to compare, using either a built-in microphone and a meter on the little box, or you can even do it by ear. You get them so that they are the same. Then, and only then, do you actually put music content through. And then you can immediately tell you've eliminated the psychoacoustics. Now you can focus on things like the frequency response, as I was saying, the tightness of the bass, and whether it's clean treble, whether there's peakiness in there, all of those factors. You can now do a legitimate comparison. Okay, so here's the problem. Now you're in a car. Okay, how do you do this? The answer is you cannot do this. It is not possible to mount double sets of speakers in a car door, get in line to the wiring to match the efficiency between the two sets of speakers. So it isn't a possible thing to do. And even worse, the idea of putting one speaker in one door and then another speaker in another door, when you play stereo content back, you've got a number of problems that you've added. One, the signal going to the different speakers is different, so you're not even comparing the same sound. And your ears are different, left and right. That's just the way it is. We all, again, are human, and we hear better from one ear or another, and sometimes it's very It's very pronounced. It's a big difference. So that isn't a valid way to do it either. See, car speaker manufacturers understand this psychoacoustic phenomenon. And what they do, which is a nasty trick, what they tend to do is, particularly at the cheaper speakers, if you go into Walmart, and you get a set of speakers for $30, what are you going to get? The emphasis on speakers, particularly the low-end ones, is not wide frequency response, not good bass, not smooth, clean treble, not good imaging, none of that. The only motivation that they have is to make the speakers as loud as possible. Because they understand that even if you put them into a car and they were louder than what you had in there previously, just based upon your recollection of where you set your volume control and so forth, you'll tend to think that they're actually an improvement, at least for a while. But after you listen to them for a while, you let a couple of weeks go by, you play some of the same music that you really know really, really well, that was well recorded, you'll start to hear it. But what they're hoping is, by that point, you've got the car all reassembled, the door cards are back on, and your attitude is, I'll just live with it. Okay, so unfortunately, a lot of people end up doing that, and that's just what they get. So that's a dirty trick, but almost all of the car speaker manufacturers do that. Now, when I did the design on the M800s, those were our door speakers for the Miatas, for all years of the Miatas, there were a lot of things that went into that design, both electrical and mechanical as it relates to the speaker performance, including we calculated the acoustic volume of air that is in the door, which serves to damp the speaker cone motion, which has a direct correlation to the bass response, which is why our speakers have such great bass response. And there were some other things that were done. I can't discuss all of them, but there were some other things that were done that were to make the speaker the way I would want it to sound, not to make it as loud as possible. And in fact, there was some sacrifice. If you look at the efficiency number on our speakers, which is, it does not dictate the overall loudness of a speaker, but it is one of the indicators as to how efficient it is at converting electrical energy to acoustic. Our speakers are a little bit less efficient, not a huge amount, but a little bit less efficient, because that was one of the trade-offs that was associated with getting really extended low-end bass response from the speaker system. And I'll take that trade-off any day of the week to try to get some really nice bass, because most car stereo speakers, particularly in the sub $200 range, the bass is pretty awful. And we really wanted to be different, and that is the reason why the M800s are the best-selling Miata speakers in the world, because they actually go ahead and they deliver that. Okay, so all that set aside, how do you actually do a comparison? No problem if you're an analytical type and you want to do some science here. I will tell you how I would do it, and we actually do this at some of the Miata events we go to, where there are a lot of Miatas there, and it works out pretty well. The best way to do this is get yourself involved, if you're not already, with a Miata club in your area. There are Miata clubs all over the world. Not only will you learn a lot, you'll meet a lot of nice people. Almost everybody that has a Miata that I've ever met, nice people, and love the cars, love enjoying them and sharing, information about servicing, and they love to share about their stereo systems. Now, here's what you do. Find that club, find one of the outings that they're going to have. It could be a drive out for lunch or dinner or maintenance day. It doesn't make any difference. You'll get, say there's 15 Miatas that are there. You'll get a pretty good representation of audio systems that are in those Miatas. So go ahead, buy your set of M800 speakers, put them into your Miata. Play around, get the settings and everything the way you like them. Treble, bass, balance, and fader. We have recommendations for doing all that, including a couple of videos that we have here, one of our question and answer videos. So get it all set. Go to the event where these other Miatas are. Bring an MP3 file with you on your phone or on a separate player. And make it a really good one that's really, really recorded well. I've always liked for testing using the stuff from Steely Dan. Those guys were just fanatics about doing quality audio recording. And also, some of the Eagles stuff was great, particularly the Hell Freezes Over album. Those tracks, even though it was in a live venue, small room, very carefully recorded, beautifully done though. Really, really nice. But take something that's well recorded and that you know really well, so that you literally have heard it maybe hundreds of times. Okay, so you know what it's supposed to sound like. Get out of your Miata, go over to one of your new friends with their Miata, and hopefully they've got one of the sets of speakers that you might like to compare. Maybe it's some Pioneers, some Vocals, some Polks, or whatever it is. It doesn't make any difference. But it's one of the ones you're interested in doing a comparison. And I should add, don't go to the person's car who's got a $2,000 stereo with 5 amplifiers. And, that isn't really apples to apples. Okay, you want to have somebody, if you've just replaced your M800s, your door speakers with M800s. Find somebody who has done the same thing. They've just replaced their door speakers and the rest of it is stock. Maybe they even still have the stock head unit. So try to keep it in the ballpark of being a similar sort of setup at least. Take your MP3 with the engine off, and it doesn't matter if the top is up or down on the car. Just make sure they're the same on both cars. If their top is down, put your top down so that you just have the same basic environment. Turn on their radio. Set all of the tone controls flat. Turn off the loudness, any bass boost or anything that they have. You're trying to get a comparison stock to stock, not with one system goosed, way up with an equalizer or something in there. So try to get it, where you're using a out-of-the-box, comparison of the speakers. Once you have that, put on your MP3. If they've got rear speakers or headrest speakers and you don't, fade to just the door speakers. And then on yours, fade to just the door speakers. So you're listening to the same thing. I mean, if they've got wind blocker speakers and you don't have in your Miata or headrests or whatever, you'll be mixing the sound from the different things. So try to isolate the speakers that you're actually trying to compare. So if it's the door speakers, just listen to their door speakers. And then listen to 2 or 3 minutes of that MP3 that you have. Close your eyes, relax, pay particular attention, vocals, and turn it to a decent level. Not thundering, you can't talk to somebody, 5 feet away, but at a good solid level so that you're really putting the speakers through the paces of what they're capable of. And listen to the 2 or 3 minutes of it. Then immediately get out of that car, go back over to your car, and play the exact same MP3 for the same 2 to 3 minutes. It will be fresh enough in your mind going from the one to the other and just adjusting the volume to about the same loudness level that you perceive it. It'll be fine. It will allow you to have a very immediate comparison, and then you can get back out, jump back into that other Miata and listen again and do it a couple of times. And if you haven't yet bought a set of the M800s and you want to do the comparison first, most Miata clubs, if they have 10 people there, there's probably a couple of them that already have our M800 speakers, because again, we are the largest selling speakers solution for the Miata in the world. So you could probably find somebody and do the same comparison. That is an honest way to actually compare one speaker system against another. Yeah, it's not as convenient as doing it all in your car by yourself. It's just the nature of an automobile and some limitations as to what's involved and those important psychoacoustic phenomenon that do require, when you're listening to speakers simultaneously, that you get the levels matched so that you don't tend to favor the louder one. Anyway, that is it. I hope this was helpful. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. I'm glad to respond to those, or back on the 3maudio.com website. Use the contact form, leave us some questions. We always get back to everybody and try to help you out with any of your audio questions for your Miata. And if you're not already a subscriber, why don't you go ahead and subscribe? It's funny, the stats on these videos, probably 97% of the people that watch them never subscribe. And if you've got a Miata, you've got some audio in it, and you want to actually learn a little bit more about audio or get some tips for installing things, we have videos for installing all of our products and our air horn kit that we sell as well. And a lot of these question and answers, some good stuff in there. So take some time and do that. That's it for this time, and thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.